Welcome to Unhindered Talks. We are back
yeah.
on Wednesday. We couldn't do it on Monday.
Yeah,
Our lives are getting chaotic.
someone has to work in this house.
All of us, babe. All of us has to work. Some don't as much as the other. It's life. So, it depends how you look at it, right?
Oh, if you're saying so, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How's it going?
Good.
How's your week been so far?
We're busy, but good.
I know we've been a little busy.
I can't complain at all.
You're getting ready to go to kids camp.
Oh, that's going to be fun. Yeah.
We're so excited that you guys are here to join us today. And today we are going to talk about something really awesome. Actually, every topic we talk about is awesome for me. So just FYI, because it's one of those things that are close to my heart. So today we're going to talk about your testimony.
Yeah.
I love that. How's your testimony, NLG, lately?
Oh, I have so many. Life testimony, my testimony as a person.
As a human being. What is your living testimony at this moment? Has it been good?
Yeah.
Do you reflect your testimony, you think?
I do. I think
Do you
so.
eat, live, and talk the walk?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah?
For sure. Yeah.
Is the stuff that comes out of your mouth, is it what you're living?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can assure that
think
he
so.
is actually living that.
Yeah, I think so.
How do you feel about people and their testimonies lately?
Well, it depends, It comes and goes.
Do you feel the Christian society right now
Oh, no.
is sharing their testimony correctly?
Well, a lot of them, yes, but no, a lot of them, no. It's like 50-50 right now.
Why?
In my opinion.
Why do you say 50-50?
Well, because it's 50-50. Like half of the people do, half the people don't.
But there
As
has to
simple
be
as that.
a main reason. Why do you feel that the Christians in this society today, are not living the testimony that they're supposed to live?
Well, I guess that's what we're going to talk about today.
Is that what we're going to talk about?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about our testimony today.
Okay.
So what does your testimony say about you, right?
Mhm.
Your testimony is your solemn declaration of courage, persistence, overcoming, affirmation of what God has done in you and through you in your life, right?
Yeah.
So you have to speak, live, and be the testimony.
Absolutely.
Right? So you can't just choose and pick what you're going to testify of. You kind of have to be that all the time. Even in silence and how you act in silence and what you don't speak in silence needs to speak louder than what you say.
Yeah.
It's one of those biggest things that today I noticed that a lot of Christians talk a lot, but when they're living it, it really, really doesn't
Align,
right?
Yeah.
Align with what
it's because
they are
it's
saying.
so easy. It's so easy to talk. It is super easy to talk.
I
But
love
when it
talking.
comes-
Yeah, it's super easy.
Yeah, but when we actually when it's time for us to start acting on what we say, that's when the hard part comes, because
Yeah.
if we see Christ's testimony, the life that he lived, the life that he taught us to live as well, it is a life of being an example, being the way that we need, that we want the society to be.
Right.
Like, I cannot say, oh, I want society to be this way, but I act totally different.
Right.
So he was the example. He was the living testimony of how we as a Christian should live.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's great because nowadays we realize that we really have to be careful.
Yeah.
Especially with internet and social media and what are we listening to, what are we putting in our minds and in our bodies and through our eyes, are that person that's on the other side of the screen actually being truthful about their testimony?
Yeah, and in social media, 90% of the time they're not being truthful.
Yeah. You kind of have to you gotta live it. You can't just really talk about it.
Yeah.
The other part of testimony, it's sharing your testimony. It can be really scary to share your testimony, especially depending what you went through, how you went from bad to good, or even good to bad, how it all turned out, right?
Yeah.
For some people, sharing their testimony
It's a hard
can
task.
be scary,
It's a hard
can
task.
be embarrassing. And I've noticed that some people only share small parts, but not the whole thing. They share the parts that is needed when the time is right, but not everything when it comes to it. I also noticed that when people are sharing that small part, it's not because they can't share the whole testimony. It's because they're actually still working in themselves. And it can be hard and challenging to share it. I remember when I came to Christ, and sharing my testimony in the beginning, it was really hard for me.
Why?
It was actually really painful. I cried and I was really angry still. So every time I shared my testimony, that you could tell the anger of my body, like inside the way I acted, the way my voice changed, the way I cringed most of the time, and how like my voice like changed and cracked, and I sometimes cried, and I was even like when I shared it, I noticed that because I was still so angry and I was still being healed from it, that I didn't find any peace yet, right? Those things take time.
Yeah,
it took a little time for me to be able to share everything I went through in my life. And every person I talk to today, now that I can talk about it, all the stuff in my life that has passed and I've overcome and I've healed from it, it's still hard. It kind of hurts a bit, but it doesn't hurt to a point that I'm angry. It doesn't hurt to a point anymore that I am like mean about it. I am crying. There are some things I still get angry about, but that's because it's like a situation, like it's me and God.
Yeah.
I'm not angry with the person anymore. Like I would get angry with people. And now it's more of me and a God conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, like telling our testimony can be and will be scary most of the times.
Yeah.
Because we are so afraid of the judgment as well that may come.
Yes, that's the other part.
Yeah. So a quick tip: if you're listening to somebody's testimony, don't judge. Don't judge. Listen to it. If it is, a godly thing, encourage them to, to keep on sharing.
Yep.
If you see something that is not biblically correct too, because some people, they come, I have this testimony, I had this dream, and I'm like,
calm down. Let's see.
Calm down. Yeah. This is maybe you just went to bed and it was,
your stomach was full.
Your stomach is full. But there are some testimonies that we have to be careful. And because of that, because we don't know how our testimony will affect people. Yeah, we are afraid of judgment.
I was afraid of judgment when I shared my testimony first, even with you when I shared it the first time. When we first started dating, or not even dating, like we were getting to know each other. And remember, we sat on the beach for a couple hours, for like 2-3 hours, and we just flat out just kind of told each other's life story. And at one point, I was like, I don't even want to tell you this because it's embarrassing. And you're like, no, if we're going to move forward with this relationship, we kind of got to know what's going on. So, sharing your testimony is a powerful way to express your faith journey and the impact of God's work in your life. I have to say, when I started healing from my life and healing from the things I've been through, what really impacted me and how I started to notice that I was actually being impacted, like myself, and actually impacting other people, is because I started to have peace within. That is so big.
Yeah, it is. That's for sure.
Don't share your testimony until you actually start to like have a little bit of peace. And what I say is, with a group of people, if you are sharing your testimony like we shared with each other when we first got to know each other, we are trusting each other there enough that, I can be angry, I can be crying, I'm still healing from it, right?
And it was a different setting.
It was a different setting, right?
Different setting,
so if you have a special person or a friend that you're sharing this testimony with before you share it to everybody, and you're still getting angry and you're still getting mad and you're still, just it takes you to another level instead of actually the level of peacefulness, you're not ready to share with a group of people yet.
That's true.
And the other thing is, I started to notice I wasn't embarrassed anymore. I stopped being embarrassed
because you were healed from it already.
I was starting to heal. And so the moment I started notice that, I was like, wait, I'm not even embarrassed about this anymore because this is my past and this is here is my future right now, and this is who I am. I'm a more peaceful person. I'm calmer. I'm less a little crazy. I'm still crazy, but like good crazy, not bad crazy like I was. I'm not a party animal. Like I'm actually living what I'm speaking, what the words are coming out of my mouth. So there's a couple of things, you should do and when you are doing your testimony, right? So first of all, start with your life before Christ. When you share your testimony and you're ready to share your testimony and you're like, I am ready, I feel at peace, I am prepared to share what I've gone through, I'm prepared to share the pain and the that I got caused, I'm ready to share what changed me. Start with your life before Christ. Share what you were like before, right? You accepted Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
And don't be, and that's when the judgment may come.
Yes.
That's when the judgment may come, because people will look at you, and don't forget, even Jesus went through this.
Yeah.
Even he, because he was doing all these miracles, but people were looking at him and saying, well, isn't he the son of that carpenter?
Yeah.
Wasn't he my neighbor?
Yeah.
Wasn't he this? Wasn't he that?
Yeah.
And for us, when we're sharing our testimony, people may say, oh, but you were this kind of person before. Who are you to say this now? So, just don't lose focus on what Jesus did for you.
Yeah. And don't lose focus, because that person sometimes will not understand your testimony right away when you're sharing it for the first time. And that person like, who are you? Like, you used to be this. And what you need to do is not get angry and just stand your ground. Go, you know what? I'm a different person. And be honest about your struggles. Be honest about the doubts and challenges you faced.
Yeah.
It's not, your testimony is for you. It's to honor God, and there's always going to be the right time, the right person to share it with.
That's for sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
The second thing is the moment of transformation. Describe how you encounter Jesus. Like I said, when I encountered Jesus, my life changed. It didn't change like out of the blue. No. It took time for it to change.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I accepted Jesus today and yesterday I was a completely different person. No. Oh my goodness. No. I like struggled with the change still.
Yeah, because it's a change, and everything that goes against our flesh when we're living in the flesh, everything and all things that goes against our flesh desires, it will be a struggle every single day, because we have to kind of reroute our lives and our way of thinking, our way of acting, our lifestyle to what Jesus wants as our lifestyle now.
Yeah,
so
aligning with
it is
his
a transformation
will. It's
process.
a transformation process. And I remember like even looking at myself in the mirror a couple of times, because I used to dress a little crazy, a little too hoochie, it showed a little much. Let's put it that way. And there were times that until like I think like I had that moment, that epiphany, like in the mirror, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I wearing? Like, what is this clothes? Like, who is this person? And it's like, it started small, right? The transformation started small.
Yeah.
So make sure when you do the transformation, you describe the encounters. Those encounters that I had by myself with Jesus, with like just looking in the mirror, and I'm like, am I going out like this? Like, this is so tight. Like, this shows so much. Like, this is asking for people to pay attention to my body instead of actually pay attention to the person I am.
Yeah.
And those things just became so like real in me. Like, it kind of bothered me that I was that way. So I needed to change stuff. And small transformation. And you're probably thinking like, how does your clothes tell the life of your testimony? It does. Because you can't change and then not change completely, because the change comes from inside out, right? So you're changing inside out. So I started like seeking God more. I started going to prayer group. I started participating in small groups, going to church and things like that. And it was slowly, it wasn't until those small things. And the other moment that really made me change is the way I spoke. I remember like I always had to speak, and I always had to say something negative or a bad word. And when the moment I caught that, I was like, why am I speaking this way? And then one time you said something to me. You're like, why do you speak that way? And it made me like, what? What's the problem? You don't even remember that. You don't even remember, right?
No,
and I was like, what? Like, why is he saying this? And it bothered me. Like, it bothered me, right? And so even like the words that were coming out of my mouth needed to match my behavior.
Absolutely.
It needed to match everything. Absolutely. And so that was really hard for me.
Yeah.
Those things I struggled. And when I share with people those things today, people like look at me like, yeah, I can see the difference. Yeah. And people that knew me in the past and now know me now, they're like, oh my God, who is this person? And which is, it's really great. It's a testimony to actually what I'm changing about.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. The other thing is life after accepting Christ. Talk about the difference Jesus has made in your life. Highlight the specific changes, right? Such as you found peace, purpose, and healing.
Yeah, because when we forget that when we share in Christ, we share in our testimony. We sometimes use even language that like it's hard for people to understand. So when we actually get the highlights, as you said, when we come and say, look, this changed in my life because of Jesus. When we give details, when we give examples, share how your life is after Jesus, people will be more accepting and will more understanding of what Jesus is doing.
Right.
So it is a more effective way of sharing your testimony. So that's for sure.
So definitely, life after accepting Jesus, talk about the difference. And then this is one of my favorite: be authentic.
Be yourself.
What do I mean? Like, be yourself, right?
Yeah.
Share both the victories and the struggles, because honestly, how are you going to connect with people if you just share the good?
Yes, social media, like people being yourself, being authentic in social media, it is hard to find someone that is today.
Yeah.
And people don't want, especially when talking about Christians, people don't want fakeness.
No.
People want to see the real you.
Yeah.
Like even Hillsong Youth, something like that.
Yeah.
They have this song that says, like people, we are tired of pretending. We want the real truth.
Yeah, because like honestly, like if you think about it, like why do I want to hear something just good? How am I going to connect with that person? Like, I don't know their struggles. I don't know their pains. I don't know their difficulties. And it makes it really, really hard for you to be like, to connect. Like, okay, so fine, you went through this, like, but how does this connect it with me? Because what people want today is actual truth. People are tired, and so tired of the fakeness, and so tired of the lies, and so tired of making up things. Be authentic with your testimony. Don't just make up things because it's convenient for somebody. It makes it more elaborate. I mean, no, be truthful. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and that's really important. The other thing is keep it concise.
Yeah.
Keep it concise. Focus on the most impactful aspect of your journey when you're sharing your testimony. Why was this so impactful? My life changed completely. I grew up in a very different household than you did. And so what really changed for me is like my life could have been completely different.
Yeah.
Right? But the fact of the matter is, I somehow, somewhere in my journey of my loss and actually finding myself to God, like finding my way to God and actually being lost at the same time, something clicked. I didn't want to be that person anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do the alcohol. I didn't want to go crazy. I didn't want to be the party animal. I didn't want to do this and that. I wanted to be different.
Yeah. And one important part that I think it is important for us to also highlight when talking about testimony, your life testimony, is the other part of the things.
Yeah.
We're talking a lot about impactful changes, impactful life changes, impactful lifestyle changes, but there is the other side of the coin as well.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone just a little while ago, and he was telling me, Energy, I don't have this kind of like crazy testimony that how Jesus changed my life and how Jesus did all this, all that. And I told him, okay, how old are you? He said 16. And he was like, okay. And I asked him, so what kind of crazy stuff have you ever done in your life? He's like, nothing. I lived my life with Jesus all the time, like my whole life. I've never drank. I never did any drugs or stuff like that. And I told him right there.
Right there. That's your
testimony.
Because everybody nowadays does this.
Yeah, so
and you are different.
Your testimony is that, with Jesus by your side, guiding you, you were able to keep yourself away from all this bad stuff. So that's your impactful.
That is such an awesome testimony.
That is your impactful testimony. Okay, I didn't do all this crazy stuff because I chose Jesus from a young age. And since I chose Jesus from a young age, you also can do it.
Right. That's a great testimony.
Yeah, it is.
And it's
impactful
and it's an impactful, because honestly, there's so many young kids today going through so much depression, cutting themselves, drinking, trying to kill themselves, starving themselves. So much we can label, let's be honest.
That's true.
And when you hear a 16-year-old like, I don't have a good testimony because I've never done any of this. Dude, this is your testimony.
This is your great testimony.
Like, this is awesome. Yeah. This changes something, because then you're going in front of a group of kids and you're like, well, I never had this experience. And people are going to go like, well, why? Well, I never wanted to, because my life started with God and I wanted to be with God and I wanted to walk with God. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to keep. That's perfect. Gosh, man, I wish I had that testimony. I do not have that testimony. And remember, your testimony is unique.
Yeah.
Is unique. It can inspire others. And what I've learned over the years is like, there are things I've gone through in my life, and I shared this with you. I'm like, who am I going to share this testimony with? Yeah. Right? What am I going to do with this that happened in my life? And then all of a sudden, God prepared this whole entire life for us that we didn't even know that was going to be laid out to us.
That's true.
That we get to share our testimonies every day. Yeah. And it's so awesome because like, I actually now know, like, we're youth leaders, youth pastors. I keep saying we're youth leaders because we were youth leaders. Now we're youth pastors. And the stuff I went through, like half of the time, like, when I turn around on Energy, I'm like, Energy, go check on that kid. He's like, no, he's fine. He's fine. I'm like, Energy, go check on that kid. It's because like, I was that kid before. I know what that kid is thinking. I know what that kid is about to do. So it's really funny because like the life experience you had will be used. Yeah. Will be used. I want to let you know, God will use the good and the bad for his own glory.
Yeah,
all the time. Absolutely. No matter what you've gone through, no matter what the situation, if you came out of it and you align your life with God, and your testimony is a living testimony of God, what God has transformed in your life, he will turn it to good. Right? So that is the best part about living with God, is that no matter what you have gone through in your life, the good and the bad, it will turn into good. When you share your testimony that glorifies God, it turns you to a wise and a simple person.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So it can't be any more different. And your testimony, when you encounter God, and you understand it, your testimony will definitely be used no matter what in your journey, and it will change the situation. Speaking of testimony, Energy, you wanna share one of our testimonies today?
How many of them?
Which one do we want to share? Let's talk about the one that you broke both arms.
Okay.
Let's share that testimony.
All right. Yeah, so 2018, a year not to be remembered in this house. So I was riding my bike, and I fell, broke both arms. It was a way of God working in my life that I needed to put so much stuff in my life into perspective.
Yep.
He used all that to put everything in perspective.
Yep.
To change me, to renew me, to get everything that I was literally broken and internal broken as well, and make it anew. And he did. He used such a bad situation in my life. I don't say that, oh, God made me fall.
No,
I don't say that. I said that I fell, and God used that for His glory. Used
Yeah.
that to renew me, renew our marriage, renew who we are as a
Yep.
couple,
Yep.
who I am as a person too.
Yep.
So even gave me a whole new perspective as far as ministry as well.
Yeah,
You know,
I remember that.
yeah. So as far as ministry, after a while, after I broke the arms,
Healed.
oh yeah, healed a year trying
Yeah.
to heal. Miracles happening all the time. For example, doctor said that I would have some like 40% of mobility, 40 to 50% mobility
Yeah.
back. Excuse me. 40 to 6% mobility back. But by the end of the year, I was playing drums already.
Yeah, I remember that.
You
That
know,
was such
yeah,
a cool New Year's
that was
Eve.
awesome. That was
Yeah.
awesome. And when I told the doctor that I was playing drums, he's like, "No, that's impossible."
Like, that's not. I remember. I
Yeah,
was like,
and
that,
I
how is
showed-
that possible? Like, how did you do that?
And I showed him the video of it. He was like, "No, Energy, that's a miracle."
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they were not expecting me to have
Yeah.
mobility at all. Because as you can see, I have a scar here.
Yeah.
I went through surgery and I lost movement from my arm, and so I couldn't move. I couldn't
Yep.
feel anything in my
And
arm.
at one point, you even after the surgery, you lost the fingers and the wrist movement too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I lost
all of
everything.
it.
Yeah, I lost everything.
Yep.
And because of that, they said, "Look, it's going to take years for you to
Yeah.
come back." And after a year and a half, I was graduating from
From
PT,
physical
from,
therapy.
Yeah, from physical therapy. And even the guy said, "Look, Energy, you are a miracle. Now I have like 93, 95% back of my arm."
And the doctor
Mhm.
said you weren't ever going to be able to. Your arm was going to be stuck like this.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And now you have 90 something percent.
Yeah,
You only
you
have a
know,
little bit
yeah.
of percentage that didn't stretch
Just a
out.
little
It doesn't
bit.
stretch out completely.
Yeah, just a little bit. And
Yeah.
like that's something to glorify God,
Yeah.
He used something that was really bad in my life, a situation that was
Mm-hmm.
really bad, so I could put everything into perspective,
Yeah.
change what I need to change,
Mhm.
renew what I need to renew,
Yeah.
to heal what was broken.
Yep.
And that's how it happened,
And it's so funny because when God did that, He stopped our lives.
He did.
He
Completely.
God stopped our lives for a year for us to understand what He was doing in us. And He stopped us in every single thing, even serving the church, because at that time we lived an hour and 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
And we couldn't come to church to serve God because NLG couldn't be in a car. The shaking of the car would hurt
It
his arms
hurt so much.
so bad. So we were pretty much you and I the
Yep.
whole time. And God needed to restore our faith in Him because we had so much stuff going on in our lives, in our marriage, that God just needed to stop. Financially, God provided. Emotionally, God provided.
Oh,
Physically,
so much. Yes.
physically, God provided. Spiritually, God provided. Mentally, God provided. And it was so amazing to see His provision time after time after time.
Mhm.
One provision which was really awesome to see God's provisions, that I remember you were barely working, so your salary was cut in half, and I was working full time.
Yeah.
And we had to pay all the bills, and we couldn't use the savings we had because we didn't know how long you were going to be out.
Yeah.
And I paid all the bills, and we had $100 or something left over
It
to
was
do
almost
gas
nothing.
and to buy food for 2 weeks. And I remember after 2 hours of NLG crying in bed, of just crying, and he finally fell asleep. And then I went to the couch, and I didn't even have words to tell God, like, God, please provide. I just sat on that couch and cried. And it was like 2 days later, I had a box delivered to my door
Yeah, I
to
don't know.
our food. And when I called the person, I'm like crying. I'm like, how did you know? The person turns around and is like, well, I couldn't pay any of my bills until I actually provided for your house.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And
Yeah,
that
he
happened.
provides.
That didn't just happen once, but it happened twice and 3 times.
Yeah.
And then
He always provides.
always providing. And then the other thing was, we thought that like you weren't even going to be able to play for New Year's Eve. And then all of a sudden, like, God just does that beautiful miracle, and you play on the New Year's Eve service at church that we have every year. And it was so beautiful, right? To see what God can do. And then the best part, what God did was not only did he restore our faith in him and our spiritual part, right? That was kind of really tough, but he also restored our marriage.
Yeah, he restored so much.
And so much things. And so why are we sharing this? Because that this is to grow your faith. It's to show you that even through the bad and the good, God will provide.
Yeah,
God will take care of. And sharing your testimony, as small as or as big as it can be, it might change somebody's life. You never know what the person's going through. You never know when you're sharing what's happening in that person's life, because people don't share everything. People don't have the courage to share everything, their personal beliefs, inside themselves. And we were going through a really rough patch as emotion speaking, with our marriage.
With everything. With it
and
all.
So when God healed everything, God provided everything, and God took care of everything, it was really, really interesting to see. And now that I stop and think about it, like, I'm so grateful that I'm not grateful for the accident, but I'm grateful for the stop.
Yeah, for the restoration.
For the restoration God provided. The stop that God declares, like, no, I'm stopping them because I need them to hear and see what I'm about to do.
Yeah.
And so sometimes God does that stuff.
Yeah.
So your testimony is not just for you. Your testimony is to help people grow in faith. Your testimony is to actually encourage people to keep going, because serving God is not easy. It is a hard road to serve God, but it is a road that you want to be in at all times, even through good and bad times.
Yes, true.
And so your testimony will actually encourage people to keep going. Your testimony will give a family sometimes the courage to fight for their marriage, to fight for their spouses, will fight for their children, especially kids that are, not in the way of the Lord. Testimony can go many ways.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially a testimony with a powerful outcome. Always share it, and when you do share, I want to remind you of this. Start with your life before Christ. Share what he's before you accepted. Share the moment of transformation. Describe how you encounter Jesus. Your life after accepting Christ. Talk about the difference that Jesus has made in your life, and be authentic, be real, and keep it concise.
Yeah, that's
when you're
true.
sharing your testimony.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Anything else you want to share?
Yes, I do want to share because there is a verse here that you wrote down that I want to read.
I did write it
Yeah,
down.
you want to read it?
No, go ahead. I'll let you read it.
Yeah, but in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect. This verse, it is very directed to.
This is what 1 Peter.
Yeah, 1 Peter.
3:15?
Yeah, 3:15, and it is very directed on how we defend our faith.
Yeah.
But we can definitely apply it to how we have to have our testimony ready at all times.
At all times.
Like the Bible says that we have to be ready to share in times and out of times, in seasons and out of season.
Yes.
And when we know our testimony by heart, and what I mean by that is, there is a way that you can share the gospel, share your testimony in a very concise way. We call it elevator speech.
Wow.
Elevator speech is when you, in 1 minute, let's say that you're going from first floor to the 10th floor.
Yep. It needs to be 1 minute.
Yes, you have that 10 floors to preach or to give your testimony to someone.
Right.
So when you have that elevator speech ready in your life, you can testify very effectively.
Yeah.
And it can reach people. So be ready to share, be ready to defend your faith, and be ready to testify.
Yeah.
Tell people the good things that God has done and is doing for you every single day.
And live your testimony. Even when you're silent, when you open your mouth, through everything in your life needs to be a living testimony
absolutely.
of you, how you've changed, who you are in Christ.
True.
Right?
True. Yeah.
Everyone, that's it.
That's it.
That's it, right?
That's it. Yes.
We will not be having a podcast next week. NLG would be going to
Yep.
the camp with
Kids
the kids.
It's
We went to
gonna
youth
be
camp. Now
fun.
we're going to. I'm not going. He's going to kids camp. It's going to be
it is going to
fun.
be fun.
Pray for him and pray for
Please
me.
do. and pray for every kid that is going to.
And everybody that's going to be there. It's going to be a powerful moment. I'm 100% sure God
for sure.
is providing testimonies there in that camp to touch those kids' life. And we are so grateful for all of you. We will see you guys in like what?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. I hope you enjoy, but at this time, you can still see us in our platforms, our social media. All of our podcasts are up and running, and we'll put this one up before NLG goes to camp next week, so you can actually replay it, watch it, eat it, sing it, breathe it, whatever, share it, like it. And, if you have questions, send us a message.
Send us a message. Yeah. God bless you all. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.